like to call the Personnel Committee meeting for December 16th to order. Please take the roll.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Richard Budney.
Here.
Frank Presco.
Here.
All present?
Looks like it. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Yep.
Missing?
Nope.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then moving on to item 2, the citizen comment period. Seeing no citizens come forward, I will close the citizen comment period. Item number 3, change in membership of the Personnel Committee, resignation of Alderman Eichman, and elimination of one alderperson on the committee. John, are you handling this, or is Kelly? Please sit up at the front table. I'd like to introduce our mayor, John R.
J.R.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dallas.
So the reason, there was a couple different reasons as to why feeling it was the right thing to do, which was to fill the restructuring opening in the Plan Commission with an elected official. And a couple ways that we talked about why we feel that it's no longer needed to have 3 electeds on personnel. A lot of it had to do with the amount of complaints and things that come through that are non-related to, let's say, the Police and Fire Commission. So you still have adequate representation with 2 electeds. The Plan Commission spot, which had a voting member, which was the city engineer, I never liked as an alder. I felt that, okay, why do you have an employee that's a voting member on this, which answers to the mayor? I didn't like the optics in that, and I felt that Plan Commission is that important. It has that much responsibility that having a second elected official on the Plan Commission makes a lot of sense, just like having 3 on the Finance Committee makes very good sense. That's why I drew the parallel.
Okay, is there, this motion was before council?
It's done. It's just me. It's just me explaining it.
Passed before council meeting previous. So all this is just a reporting to let the committee know what was behind it and why it's happened. Any further discussion? Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Well, it's not.
No, it's just discussion.
It's just a reporting.
All right.
But if anybody has any questions any more of that, I'll gladly answer them. But I just felt it made the most sense.
Okay, moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from 10/14/24. It has been pointed out that there is a correction to the minutes, and it has to do with the second line of the first paragraph, where it says Vice Chair Bruner. That should be Vice Chair Barber.
Right.
And that was pointed out by one of our members. So with that correction, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from 10/14.
I'll second.
I make the motion to approve.
Okay. Now someone can second it.
Okay.
Okay. There is a motion that's been made to approve the minutes from that meeting, 10/14. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. This motion passes unanimously. 4 ayes, no noes, no absence. Moving on to item number 5, approval of a job description for a public health strategist, and that would be Lauren, please.
Hello. I'm Lauren from the Health Department. coming forward today in the hopes of getting a public health strategist position description approved. So we had the position description go through Dana, and Kelly reviewed it as well. Do they have a copy of the job description within their information? It places a large emphasis on emergency preparedness and then a lot of community health assessment, community health improvement plan work that's required for Department of Health and Human Services 140 within our statute. Critical to have a position focused on this so that we can keep it moving throughout the years. So the health assessment happens every 3 to 5 years, and then the improvement plan is from what comes of that. And we've developed a pretty robust process in the health department now with a lot of community collaboration and collective brainstorming, so the role will help support that. My mic's a little touchy. We also completed an employee job analysis questionnaire, so that was filled out by myself since we don't currently have anyone in that role. We've not done this, so I'm looking to see if you guys have any questions, but the hope would be that this would be approved, placed on file, and then we would be able to fill from within when appropriate.
I have a question. You're under your minimum requirements. You're a master's degree. That seems to me to be quite a high level. Would you be able to have a candidate pool to choose from?
Yes, we would, to answer that. We have a couple of accredited universities that are Masters of Public Health here in Wisconsin. So there is local talent that have master's degrees. Master's degrees preferred in this. So we would be able to hire from a bachelor degree. But a master's degree would offer additional insight on evaluation and data analysis, which would be really useful for the position.
Well, I didn't notice master's degree or public health related preferred, so it's not a requirement.
Correct.
And what would you be looking to have this group do, just place on file? Or is there a motion to have it move forward to, there's no motion as stated, so is it to move forward to council?
That would be the plan. I don't know logistically what we would want to be said at this meeting, but the ideal scenario would be this placed on file or moved to council, because I could take it in January then to get granted requests to fill this from our internal candidate pool. Dana, do you have any
It would be a
insight?
recommendation for you guys to approve this with council's approval.
And it says 50% here in essential duties. What does that mean?
So this is
It's a full-time position?
Yep. And then on the next page, it goes into different percentages for different main headers of the job. So it just gives the candidate and then our internal personnel an idea of the breakdown of where their efforts would be focused. So a heavy,
Would be a component then.
yep, a heavy emphasis would be on the community health assessment and improvement plan. And then it breaks down on that.
We just noticed it doesn't add up to 100%.
Oh.
It's 105.
Well, this person goes above and beyond, and that is an expectation of the job. Fitting a lot in a little, I guess, but
Well, the approval would be to approve with a minor technical correction.
all right.
Any other discussion from the committee? Any other questions? Okay, at this point, I'd entertain a motion to have this move forward to council with our recommendation that this person.
Second.
All right.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor of this moving forward to council?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved unanimously. 4 ayes, no noes, no absence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 6 then, which is the approval of a new job description for a fire captain and revisions to the job description for a battalion chief and fire lieutenant. And what is the consideration here?
Good evening to members of the Personnel Committee. Jim Mayer, Fire Chief. Along with me is Shannon Antoine, our Assistant Chief of Emergency Medical Services, and Assistant Chief Bob Mankey, our Operations Assistant Chief. I handed out a copy of our organizational structure, and since the items under consideration by your committee tonight all hinge upon our organizational structure, I think it would be best if I spent a couple minutes just clarifying and explaining how our command staff works, how it works, what the responsibilities are, and then how this new proposed captain's position fits into the mix. So our organizational chart, the command and administrative staff are myself, the two assistant chiefs who are next to me. We also have an administrative assistant and a full-time community fire prevention specialist who is basically his main function is as a fire inspector, a non-sworn civilian position. The bulk of our personnel are located at the center of the chart under the three headings of black shift, red shift, and green shift, providing emergency medical and fire services on a 24-hour per day, 365 day per year basis. Our staff is divided into three shifts that work 24-hour periods on a rotating basis. The battalion chief is a non-represented or non-union position that is the highest ranked officer on the 24-hour shifts. They play a very critical role in maintaining basically the day-to-day operation of our fire and emergency medical services. They have many administrative duties, filling the shift roster, training their crews, maintaining our readiness of our equipment and our stations. But most of all, one of their most critical functions is they do actually respond to calls. Even though they are administrative staff, they respond to structure fires, vehicle crashes, and major medical incidents. And their main job is to perform the role of the incident commander for incidents within the city. Currently, under our current structure that's in front of you, the next level supervisor is our lieutenants. So each shift has three lieutenants. The lieutenants are assigned to each of our fire stations, and they oversee a crew of 3 personnel. We call them company officers, and they would be typically riding on a fire engine company or a paramedic unit, and they are providing that first level supervision, kind of like a shop foreman would or a job site foreman would. So their level, their scope of influence or their scope of authority is limited to that company of 3 people plus themselves. And I wanted to just illustrate that the battalion chief oversees the shift that contains 14 people. So you look at that scope of responsibility, it's 3 people compared to 14 people. The new position that is brought before you tonight is the captain position. For the last couple of years in our strategic planning in our department, it's been brought forward of the possible need of a middle-level position between lieutenant and battalion chief. And the position of captain would involve promoting one of the current lieutenants on each shift. So there would be 3 total captain positions. The position has already been authorized in our 2025 budget. The captain would be a position that has the primary goal of providing a pathway of professional development from a lieutenant to a battalion chief position. Currently, if the battalion chief is off for a day, if they have vacation or sick leave or they're not on duty, one of the lieutenants is expected to act as battalion chief. And with our lieutenants, although they're all perfectly capable of performing the role, when you look at the increased responsibility that's involved from going from supervising 3 people at one fire station to 14 people at 3 fire stations, plus basically being responsible for fire and EMS in the entire city, it's somewhat of a daunting leap for maybe a newly promoted lieutenant to jump in that position, especially if the lieutenants rotate where they only do it a couple times per year. and that was one of the things that we looked at. Was this captain position would put someone who aspires to promote to the rank of battalion chief into that role, where they would get a certain amount of practice or repetitions. It would be expected that they would fill in for the battalion chief anytime that there was a vacancy. And then we also would be adding some administrative responsibilities to the captain as well, terming them a station captain. So one would be assigned to each of our rotating shifts. They would also receive a assignment of one of our 3 stations, where they would actually be coordinating the maintenance of the actual physical plant of the building itself, which is an area that we need a little bit more accountability in. They would be maintaining the inventory of the equipment and the people out of that station. I envision giving them some budgetary responsibility, so that's part of their professional development, that they will be managing a small portion of the budget. Again, looking at it as a position of growth that will also pay off to have the most highly qualified people in that role. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of our current established layout. On the agenda for tonight, the first item under consideration is the captain job description. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have on the job description.
Any questions from the committee? Now, this one would come between the captain would be between the lieutenant and the battalion chief.
You are correct. So it wouldn't be another person we would be hiring. It would be one of our internal lieutenants would go through a promotional process. It would be a current lieutenant would be promoted to this rank.
We have a battalion chief with us tonight.
Yes, Battalion Chief Kurt Stick is here.
Anything you'd like to say or add to that as far as the structure change? No, I think the chief made his point pretty well. Okay.
Now, that position, the captain, is listed as a non-exempt position. Will they be supervising the people, though?
Yeah, correct. So, and Dana can correct me if I'm wrong, but the lieutenant and a captain position would be part of the bargaining unit. The current lieutenants are part of the union. The captain would also be part of the union. And as part of that, working a 24-hour shift, they are subject to the FLSA as far as being entitled to overtime for hours worked. Mainly goes down to them working a 24-hour shift. Their average is 56 hours per week that they're on duty.
Any other questions? Do any of the surrounding communities have this structure in place? Is it something that's...
AC Antoine assisted in developing the description. I'm going to let her field that question.
Yeah, a lot of our neighboring departments, Greendale Fire Department has it, Greenfield Fire Department has it. I believe Oak Creek as well, correct? Or are they still lieutenant?
I think
They're still lieutenant. It is a very good transitional position. You gain more responsibilities. Right now we're lacking, like Chief stated, we're lacking that in-between structure. When a person becomes a new lieutenant, they're expected to jump on that battalion chief car and do those duties. And when you're a fresh lieutenant learning your lieutenant duties, it's kind of hard to learn a battalion chief duty as well. So this captain position would filter that, and there are surrounding communities that fit that mold already, and it's very successful.
Would the captain also assist in training?
Yes. Yep, they would lead trainings, and AC Mankey will be overseeing that.
Any other questions or concerns? So you're again asking that this be moved forward to council with our recommendation?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for that if there's no
I'll
further
make the
questions.
motion.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Passes unanimously. 4 ayes, no noes, and no absence.
The second portion of this item was the updates to the current battalion chief and lieutenant job description, and those were mainly related to when we put this new middle management, so to speak, position with the captain. It required us to make some updates and adjustments to the positions above and below. So the lieutenant and battalion chief job descriptions are mainly updating the education and training so that it flows in a logical order from the lieutenant up to battalion chief, and then also adjusting all three to be in a consistent format with each other, because they were all updated various years or longer ago. They were all due for an update anyhow.
So you're talking about item 7 now? Down to the next item, consideration of the benefit change? No.
This would be the second part of 6. That would be revisions to job descriptions for battalion chief and lieutenant.
Got that.
I believe that would probably require a second motion. That would also need to go to council for approval as well.
Okay. So the first motion was for the new job description for fire captain, and now this one is the revision to the job descriptions for battalion chief and fire lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on that from the committee? I will now entertain a motion
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
and send that on to council as part of maybe 2, or is it going to be one motion? 2 items or 1 motion?
One should be fine.
Should be fine. Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. 4 ayes, no noes, no absence. Okay, now we can move on to number 7.
Yep.
Consideration of the benefit pack change for the fire battalion chiefs.
So, number 7. So, again, our battalion chiefs, they are non-represented, so they're not covered by the firefighters union contract. However, they do work on that rotating 24-hour shift, just like the union firefighter personnel do. This recommendation or request is in line with what we have done previously, that we've attempted to mirror the benefit package for the battalion chiefs to the benefits that are received by the represented personnel through their contract negotiations. The firefighters union had a new contract that went in place for this year, and this is catching up the battalion chiefs with bringing their amount of sick leave to be equal to the union contract, going from, actually I'll go ahead and read it so we don't have any mistakes. Sick leave shall accrue at the rate of 8 hours for each calendar month of service for extended term full employees. That's just from the employee handbook. Effective 1/1/25, fire department command staff that work a 24-hour shift will accrue paid sick leave at the rate of 1 working day or 24 hours for each full month of service. Prior to this, prior to 1/1/25, this was 12 hours per month. So they would be accruing the same amount of sick leave that the firefighters covered under the union contract would receive. The one item that makes this even a little bit more critical is that the battalion chiefs, in order to receive their full vacation, do have to turn in 3 sick leave days per year to receive their full vacation. So that was another real critical item that I felt was very important to get this moved through. The battalion chiefs are at a level where they are very, very mobile, very highly respected, very well trained, that I want to retain them within our department. I don't want them to be looking at moving to other departments because they're not getting the same benefits as the other folks are. So it's a retention and employee morale issue that's really high on my list for bringing this forward to you. Go ahead, Bob. Yep.
And just one thing with the vacation too, the union staff, they have to have a certain amount of hours in the bank, but they don't have to turn that vacation period in. They just have to have it in the bank, where the battalion chiefs, they have to have it, and they have to essentially scheduling sick time, where the union does not do that. So we're just trying to make it fair across the board.
The second component is the compensatory time off for when the battalion chiefs work hours above and beyond their normal shift. Previously, they were allowed to accumulate 72 hours. The proposal is that they be allowed to accumulate 96 hours, which again is equal to the union contract. All the other lines in red were boilerplate in the administration of the program that were the same as other areas of the employee handbook. So again, this is just, it's bringing the battalion chiefs in line with the personnel that they supervise. To be a very important retention and employee morale tool.
So here there's an attached motion. Motion to recommend to the Common Council the implementation of the above benefit changes for the fire battalion chiefs effective 1/1/2025, and authorization to insert the above recommended language changes into the employee handbook. Any discussions or any questions of the chiefs?
Make the motion to approve.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and second to do the motion as outlined in item number 7. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, does everybody have to stay for the rest of the meeting?
It's your call, Mr. Chair.
On occasion, you don't let them leave. That's why I was just wondering.
I'll help with the decision.
Okay, so long. Thank you for coming. Okay, let's move on to the number 8, which is the 2025 non-represented pay increases. Who's handling this?
I think we could probably both do it. Basically, this is the data from what our council-approved 2% pay increase equates to. So we've got a 2% pay increase, and then the adjusted that would be applicable for each level, if it is applicable, which essentially provides either anywhere from a 2% to a 4% increase based upon where they are, where the individual staff member is in their pay in terms of percentiles.
That's the bullet points in the council action sheet, or the
Yes.
the action sheet?
Yeah. So below 30% of the salary range would receive an additional 2.25% to the council approved 2%. So they would have obviously the 4.25%. And then midpoint is 30% to less than 50%, and that's a 1.5% adjustment added to the 2%. And then midpoint to market, 50% up to 65% is a 0.75 adjustment added to the 2%. And this is all part of the compensation plan that has been in place since 2015.
I've got 2 questions. One, how does this compare to other communities in the area? Is that pretty competitive?
Yeah, we're slipping, to be perfectly honest. We're coming in lower and lower from the other communities.
And then how does this compare with the represented employees, what they're due? I'm not sure when the contract,
The police contract hasn't been settled. Fire is getting a 3%, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, 3% for, is it 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the fire was put on hold for a moment, and we'll be picking that up. My understanding is that there had been discussions with the mayor about that I wasn't party to. And nothing is final. We're going to be picking that back up and really working with what the request is and how that plays into the finances and working with that negotiation. But the fire department contract is a 3-year or 3% for 3 years, so 333. It is less than obviously the represented employees.
is that going to be an issue? People looking at, well, if we were represented, we'd be looking at 3% versus 70.75 to 2.25.
Yeah, I think that it's obviously a very personal issue for all of our employees, and I think that from the standpoint of what we're able to offer and what the represented employees and other communities are getting, it's obviously not in line with what we would like to be able to offer or what they would like to see. So it does impact morale.
So does this come down to a budget decision? I mean, it's the council. It's not at our discretion, right?
Correct. Yeah. I know that there was a review between the director of finance and the mayor to look at a 3% compared to a 2%. And my understanding is that the 2% was what was something that we could for sure do.
So you're looking at it would be about 2%. There's so many people who are going to get the 2.25 and so many people getting
Correct.
75.
Yes, and that will be based upon, yeah, yep. I did receive a email that I think expressed very well the concern about the 2% compared to the economy and other areas of increases and comparables. Unfortunately, I didn't even think about bringing it, but I am happy to share that it does kind of discuss when you compare it to even something like Social Security and the increase that Social Security is receiving, it's substantially lower for the working that are here. So there are great points. Unfortunately, when it comes to the budget, I don't know how we can increase that without making some significant changes.
Money isn't the only motivating factor for people to stay at a job, but if it comes in on a consistent basis lower than people read in the newspaper or friends, relatives are getting, it starts to get
I agree.
some rumblings of dissatisfaction.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think that this is what anybody had wanted to provide. But I agree with you, and I do believe that there are other ways that we can show our appreciation that doesn't cost money or is less expensive, if you will, from a budgetary standpoint. And I am exploring those ways because I do want our employees to know how appreciated they are. I am of the belief that the way that our employees feel about their job, about working for us and being here at the city has a direct correlation between the service that they provide to our community. And obviously, that is of utmost concern for all of us. And I just believe that there is a significant relationship there, and have really tried to focus on improving that for employees.
One of the things, I'm always in favor of the relationship between employees and management, and the relationship and what would happen with their attitude towards their job. One thing that I do notice here, though, is that there's the merit performance increase, which I think is also a factor, and that still is funded, or it will be funded as this comes in. This committee was very instrumental in putting or requesting the merit performance for employees based on merit. So I'm assuming that still is moving forward, and we are still going to see some action with that.
But it's not part of this
No,
at all.
but it
Right.
is
Yeah.
part of the motion, so I just want to be assured that that's
So
going to
there-
be funded.
There is another piece, another merit piece that's.
Yes. So it was sort of, it was evaluated by the finance committee, and they felt that rather than funding it at this point, it made more sense for us to really determine a solid plan where it can be used, and then to create that plan and start funding it and utilizing it.
Yeah, that's a little bit more complicated.
It is, yeah. Some of the ideas, the internal conversations that have occurred was potentially a review committee, having a number of people to assess who would potentially be eligible for a bonus. The thought is maybe a bonus, so that way it doesn't increase the operating expense as far as the compounding salary increases, but that you would get recognized for going above and beyond. Obviously, the concern is who does that recognizing, who determines who gets a bonus, what does that look like? So there's a lot of pieces to that absolutely has to be fleshed out and determined, and that is all yet to be determined, and something that we would look to this board for guidance on as well.
Yeah, and that's really tricky if people don't feel it's been fairly
Right.
given.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, there's staff recommends this motion to approve the 2025 annual market adjustment to the pay ranges of the compensation plan, and a market adjustment to wage and salary rates both by 2%, along with the progress to market wage adjustment for the non-represented employees effective within the start of the pay period, with the pay date January 10th, 2025, and authorize human resources to incorporate the new salary ranges into the employee handbook. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve. The motion is read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, this will now move on to council
Thank you.
with 4 ayes, no noes, no absence. Okay, let's see where I am with the paper. Well, this one's a fun one. Election of officers due to the resignation of the committee chair. That would be handled by the committee itself. We need a chair and a vice chair at this point to be elected.
Yep.
I would
We
now,
have a vice chair, so it depends if somebody moves you to be chair or not, but otherwise, you're currently the vice chair.
and I would like to stay the vice chair. So do we have any nominations from the floor for a chairperson for the Personnel Committee?
I'll nominate you, Mike.
I'd second that.
Okay. Even though I have expressed my desire. We have an election coming up shortly, so maybe someone that would be some longer term possibly. 4 months we have an election, and who knows what that's going to be, so.
Are you running?
I'm running right now, yes. Might have to turn my papers, I took out papers, let's put it that way. Taking out tape, they have to be submitted by January 7th. But then we don't know how an election would turn out. Right now, there's candidates. So maybe someone that would be on the committee a little bit longer, possibly, would be someone that could be that stabilizing force moving forward. I would decline that nomination at this point. I'd gladly stay vice chair.
How about Mr. Bell?
I, would nominate Richard Budning.
I would slaughter the Roberts rules.
So do I. So do I.
We could go with no chair, and then he has no choice but to run it as the vice chair.
Yeah, we could do that, just do no chair until the
No,
election.
I'm not
and-
saying no. I'm not saying no.
So that's a yes.
Okay, I say yes.
Okay.
Okay, I am hearing a consensus of nominations for chair and vice chair.
So the chair would be Richard and the vice chair is Mike.
Right.
I
Okay.
didn't hear who the second was for nominating Richard.
Well, I thought
Or Mike.
you had made the motion and you had seconded
You
it,
made
or
the
you
motion,
made it?
I'll second
You
it.
seconded.
The chair really shouldn't second motions. Okay, hearing that motion, move forward. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? And this would take place at the January meeting. The implementation is, okay. All, it has been passed. 4 ayes, no noes, and no absence. So that would be our new leadership.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I'll bring donuts for that.
Celebrate the promotion.
Okay, staffing report, number 10.
I don't have anything to add to the one that was in the packet unless anybody has any questions on it.
Now, are we expecting that as this captain position becomes implemented, that one of the lieutenants or the lieutenants will fill those and then you'll need to backfill?
Yes, it doesn't create any additional positions.
It-
The
it-
captain.
Yeah, so it doesn't create any new hires. We would shift it appropriately so the fire department and the commission would determine who out of their pool of candidates that would come forward would move into that captain position. But we wouldn't be looking to, it would be almost like a restructuring, not a hiring.
We currently have 9 lieutenants, and we would end up having 3 captains and 6 lieutenants. So no additional positions.
Are you talking about the fire or police?
Fire.
Fire.
Fire. Oh, were you
Or are
talking
you
about the
talking
police? I'm
captain?
sorry.
That's
I'm still in the fire department.
Talking about the fire.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Just so we're clear that,
So you only would have 6 lieutenants.
Correct.
Oh, so then the chief will serve on one of the, well, no, there's 3 per shift, okay.
Correct.
I got it now, yep. Okay.
So explain it to me. Now you have me confused. There will still be 3 lieutenants. Just that one of the people listed below will then be promoted to a lieutenant.
So one of the lieutenants would be, for each of them, would ideally be promoted to captain.
Captain.
And then that would actually eliminate 3 of those. So there'd be 6 lieutenants, 3 captains instead of 9 lieutenants, and no captains. Is my understanding of how that would be.
So nobody from the bottom box has changed.
No one will shift upward outside of.
Oh, there'll be 6 lieutenants, you said?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Instead of 9.
2, 2, and 2, 6.
So I mean, there'll be one shift short of a lieutenant.
No,
That
because
would be the
there's
captain.
3 on each shift right now.
Oh, I follow you. Yes, I see. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see. There's 3.
Yeah, that's where I was confused also.
Yeah, okay, I've got it.
It's just a shift of,
Title and position, yeah. But I believe from my understanding, that lieutenant currently, then captain would still be doing their shift, just as a captain instead of a lieutenant.
and they're right on the shift rather than shift to shift. They wouldn't move shift to shift. They're operating right now within their own shift.
Correct.
Just one will be a captain instead of a lieutenant.
okay, would we like any future agenda items? I'm moving away from the staffing report to the number 11, future agenda items. Anything that we'd like to see on the agenda moving forward?
There were a couple, weren't there a couple from last meeting that were
Yeah, it was in the minutes.
going to put on?
I didn't bring last month's packet.
I don't have anything under the future agenda items in the minutes.
Let's see.
I would like to ask that something be added, though, if possible.
Okay.
Part of that employee morale and just improving the work environment as a whole, I have had this expressed to me many times. It's a big pain point for existing employees when they are looking to have a promotion to come in at the bottom of that the range for the position. They know that if they were coming from the outside in, it would be a different story, and it impacts, obviously, their morale. It makes them feel less valuable to have the years of service, have the Franklin specific knowledge, and then to feel as though that doesn't make a difference for them. And then also, obviously, with the policy that's in place, we're limited to the 5 to 7.5% over, and it's created some negative feelings that we certainly don't want to have for those that are going from one position and being promoted up. It's kind of like a disconnect between, you're doing a great job, we want you to stay here, we're committed to you, and had you been somebody coming in from the outside, you could have negotiated more, sort of situation.
It's probably something maybe we should bring back as an agenda item of
Yeah.
all the different topics that we think that are an issue in our current compensation plan and things that we need to address, like that market rate.
Yeah. The market rate's another piece. The 65th percentile is also not well received.
Is there that they have to come in at the entry level as a promotion?
That's the way the policy is written right now, so we need to see about possibly some adjustments in our current compensation plan if we're not going to redo the whole plan.
Correct.
And how would that be discretionary, or how would that work if that wasn't, would you no more than 3 steps? How would that kind of look with language? I mean, I'm just tossing it.
Right.
We'll have to come up with ideas.
Yeah. I don't think, it's one of those things that has been mentioned several times. I don't know that we necessarily have a answer to it. Yeah. And it's something I would love to be able to talk with the committee about and try to find something that is more satisfactory for everybody.
I think the only thing that I have as a kind of a filter, I'm open to discuss anything, that you think would help the morale as well as the people staying and the retention and the promotion within. What's fiscally possible, or what's fiscally sound with that is my only consideration. Other than that, I'm all for it.
Right.
So whatever you wanted to bring to us, we'd be more than happy to entertain with that, or in any new ideas regarding the other inequities that Dana mentioned. So please bring those forward, because that, I think, is what we want to look at. Any thoughts from the committee?
Excellent suggestion.
Yeah. I would appreciate the thoughts and guidance on that.
One other question now. The only thing, the idea of meeting with employee groups, has that been tabled, or is that kind of like something we've talked about at the last meeting or last couple of meetings, and that's just, there wasn't the come forward that we were hoping for? So that's
Correct.
just been tabled until some future date?
January is what the direction is that I had provided to the department heads in our most recent meeting. We met last week, Thursday, right? And we just kind of had a go around the room, open discussion, talk about items. And that was one of those things that I had wanted to remind people of, that this is the opportunity to bring forward to this committee things that are of concern. I stress often, if you have an item that you want added, please let me know, both to those department head meetings and for this committee. And that's my desire, is to get those people, staff members that are interested, to come in and be able to have their opportunity to be heard, or be a somebody that can speak on behalf of others that have come to them.
Does there need to be something in the employee handbook that kind of states that or outlines that as a possibility of becoming involved?
I don't know if it really goes in the handbook.
Yeah.
It's in the personnel rules.
Handbook, I think it's a whole thing. What my concern is, if we're coming in a little bit low from the compensation standpoint, if people feel more involved in decisions being made, they become more committed to the job too. And of course, their supervisor, if they feel their supervisor's treating them fairly, and they'll put up with a lower rate, and they like their job, they know that their ideas are being listened to and implemented at times. So any places where we can give them other opportunities, I think, is important.
Right. No, I agree. One of the things that we started doing with engineering department is we have a little bit more, it's a larger departmental meeting, because DPW and the utilities and engineering are so integrated. So we have weekly meetings, and I've stressed from day one how important I think it is for everybody to be there, to be able to talk about what they're dealing with at that moment, projects. That's our time to work together and to determine the right path forward. And I'm trying to do that, in all areas as much as possible. It's a little much right now to try to balance everything that's going on. But this is my goal, is to make it so that it's easier for employees to feel invested in their careers here. And one of the pieces that kind of go in conjunction with that is I really want to implement some sort of, it doesn't have to be exhaustive, but some sort of short-term and long-term goal setting, and to make it relevant to each employee so they can determine kind of how they want their pathing, their career pathing, and their growth development to be supported. I think that when you give staff the opportunity to own their careers, I think most of them step up and they take charge. And I think that having that ability to be heard and to be able to kind of get in the driver's seat and help us to determine what they're looking for, I think it's really key. I had one of our engineering staff ask if he could go to a conference and sent me all of the information, and I said absolutely, approved it, and he came back from it with a email about how, I glanced at it today, so I didn't get a chance to really read through it, but it really talked about how it made him feel like he matters, that we invested in him for his education, for his growth in his position. Those are the type of things I'd like to be able to promote and support. I think however you can make those positive interactions and feelings, I think they all add up and they all matter.
Okay, then moving on to item 12. Next meeting will be January 20th, 2025. And just before we adjourn, I just do want to make
I think it's a holiday. I'm sorry, I didn't.
It always is. It's Martin Luther King Day, and we always have a meeting.
Okay. I can't remember from last year.
Always.
Okay.
We're still open.
I asked Dana to hand out the proclamation that was given at council, and I just wanted to touch base that Dale and his wife were there as the proclamation was read, and from what I was able to gather, they were appreciative of that. So the committee should know that there was follow-up to Dale's resignation from this group, and I think it was handled very nicely. So that's the update. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn if you would so like, or we could continue.
Let's continue.
Let's continue. Okay. All right.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Red.
There has been a motion made and reluctantly seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are officially adjourned.